What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be talking about, is generic too generic now? I mean, are we getting to a point where we shouldn't have generic and we should be more restrictive? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it, shall we? So taking a look just straight out of here, we're going to talk about some, just in generalization, are we getting to the point where our generic cards shouldn't be this strong and we should start trying to lock them into archetype specifics? I mean, we kind of get that with like this card here, Protoform. Very powerful card. It's always going to be good. It takes advantage in the dog engine the most because the fact that Doberman X gets reduced, and then Cerberusmon is basically reduced. It doesn't really matter that they're getting reduced. It's because the top end is what you really just want the reduction in, but because they'll have the guaranteed X antibody protoform to be able to reduce this from 3 to 2, this to 1, it really does add up sometimes. And then the consistency engine that the dog brings are, you know, Labramon, Doberman X, Cerberusmon X are all great draw engines, but they all feed in themselves because either you play by an effect, or if you use the Gobbly, Ogremon engine, when you trash a card, you're going to instantly gain that value back because you're going to either use the Sunemon plus the Gobbly to gain a memory, so you didn't really lose anything and you get to continue your turn. So stuff like that matters sometimes, and again, it's only going to get worse as they create more and more strong purple, X antibody decks where there are purple level 6s. As long as that keeps getting printed, this engine's going to get boosted up and up and up. And don't get me wrong, yes, it's a good engine, it's a good draw engine, but eventually what's going to happen is when you have 6 to 7 different X antibody top end decks, and it's all just purple's only just going to be the dog engine with Cerberusmon X to Doberman X. Even some variants even now play in Takamazuchi plays the dog engine because it might be a little bit better, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that maybe we're getting to the point where, again, similar to Eismon Scouter mode and Eismon, they had to restrict them to kind of make players get off of it. And you're taking this into the account that the X antibody engine, to get players off of it, what do you need to do? You're gonna have to hit something to kind of just slow the deck down a little bit, or make people want to play the new stuff, because again, they're printing out cards that are supposed to work for the deck, and because the deck is just not super consistent and not being what you need to, people are just swinging right into the dog engine in purple and just immediately going about it. The same issue kind of happened with the Louis and Ukumon. The rush aspect, the low to the ground style of smack your opponent just took into fray, and what happened? They had to be restricted down to slow down that just super annoying aggression style of play, because you had red hybrid, blue hybrid, Numemon, and so many other decks that just basically went, okay, I play 4 Uku, I play 4 other Uku, and I have 4 Louis, or 2 Louis. And basically that 10 card engine was just constantly applying pressure and hitting your opponents in the face. By the time that your opponent kind of just was able to stabilize, you're most likely are at 1 to 2 life anyway, because of these Ukus just pinging you for every single turn. And it just was a madhouse. But, even taking that into account, purple has probably one of the best draw engines for their deck because it utilizes the best for it. But what I gotta say though, blue has been generic king for level 6s for the longest time. I'm gonna be straight honest with you, unless they're an ace. But for generic boss Digimon, blue has just been holding the full house every time there's a generically good one. Mirage Galgamon, BT11 this card is, and it's still meta defining and warping that two decks exist, Galaxy and Mirage. Both decks exist while this card exists at full play sets. You know, Galaxy plays it at 3, regular Mirage plays it at 4. This proves that as long as this card exists, this is just really strong. You know, being able to slow down your opponent's gain memory shenanigans, well, basically slow down your opponent's full turn if they draw something, if your opponent's at X, because you can force them to draw cards too, which makes them fall behind a little bit, and this will instantly make Mirage just pop off, and then your opponent's just like, well, I passed my turn, I guess. And again, this card definitely just removes, it self-fulfills its own effects, which is kind of nutty for a lot of game designs, because you shouldn't always have your own effects be self-fulfilled. And because again, return your opponent's level 5 or lower, okay, well, if they don't have it, that should have fizzled. But no, if there's no Digimon returned by this effect, add the top card of the security to hand, immediately just nullifying all aspects with Mirage Galga. That basically says, you know what, I'm still going to gain that memory, you're just going to take a damage here. And then possibly being able to swing in if you just Digivolved into it and were able to pass it back to your turn. Raigumon here. It's a good generic boss Digimon as well, because it does what you need to do. It's going to spit something out, and then basically by returning one of your Digimon to the bottom of your deck, return one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level or lowest level as the bottom Digimon. This now makes it so you're guaranteed pieces. And then because of its decode protection skill, that basically if they're going to kill your boss Digimon here, it's going to spit out the level 5 and just set you up. And that's vitally important, because now you can take advantage of that. And, you know, generically good, you know, spits out a body, sets you up, and then end of turn, you're going to be spitting something back, means that you get so much value out of it. And then like Hexablow, just superly generic, you know, security +1, ice clad. When Digivolving, just strip 4 things from your opponent's Digimon. Then if your opponent has no Digimon with no Digivolution, return one of their Tamers to the bottom deck, giving blue a answer to Tamers. And opponent's turn, none of your opponent's Digimon with as many or fewer Digivolution as the Digimon can suspend. You know, generically good boss Digimon that your opponent has to answer. If they can't answer this while answering Mirage, is kind of problematic, because, you know, Hexablow is just being splashed into almost every list. And then like for a time before we had Regu, people were playing Ancient Garu because it's just super generic. There's nothing that restricts it in there. I mean, Digicross is something to restrict, but you don't care. You don't really need to worry about that. You're just going to be on play when Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon to its owner's hand, and then when effect adds a card to your or your opponent's hand, your opponent adds the top card of the security stack to hand. Free removal. I mean, again, we're just getting to the point where Blue's level 6 category is unhinged. I think they need to start kind of trimming these down and start kind of make them a little bit more restrictive, because if they don't do this restrictive, they're just going to get better and better blue level 6s, and it's just going to get overpowered quickly. And I know that sometimes, yes, we need generic C in some aspects, like the memory boost, the mental trainings, the scrambles, you know, and just even the regular memory boost, to just be able to play the game fairly. I mean, you need to be able to search your pieces, right? Because again, it's all about the race, who gets their pieces first and ready to go, and be able to keep their turns and the memory efficiency. Like another thing that players are complaining about is Ko and Sayo. This thing here alone gives people nightmares or sweats when this thing just is on board, because the ability of being super generic in its evolution. I mean, yes, you need to have the Light Fang Nightclaw shenanigans to be able to do what you need to do, but let's even take this into a stack evolution. Ko and Sayo, if you're at level 5, you can de-digivolve it, digivolve into a level 5 with the Ko and Sayo's effect, and then immediately use the Sunmon's inheritable to digivolve into another Digimon generically for a reduced cost of 1. Again, a lot of players can't, decks don't just have this efficiency level as other decks. There just really isn't. So having Ko and Sayo be able to do this makes a lot of players tilted because, again, it's just, you're going to get into level 6s, level 7s that you weren't really meant to, and I kind of get where people are coming at. I know it can be search in the deck, and that's why, but it's super restricted into the Galaxy engine. It wasn't probably meant to be that generic, but all they had to do was make this thing say Digivolve into a Lightfang or Nightclaw. And then basically the Galaxy version deck would have not done as well. But taking a look at it right now, like even now, like some things like aces, they're splashable, you know, but they also kind of want to be part of their main deck, like Beelzemon Blast Mode, you know, Shine Greymon Burst Mode Ace. You can play it in other yellow decks, but Shine Greymon's going to play this more often than not and want to use its effect and see benefit, you know. But then you get like this generic C, Paladin Mode. You want to have Imperial Dramon, but you blast Ace on this thing, it's going to just reset for the purple matchup, which is fine. You want to kind of do that. But you have like Dex Daruga that's kind of restrict. You have to be playing a Darugamon deck because this is its X antibody line and it wants to do that. But it, like, you have Lord Nightmon X here. Let's be straight honest. What is he doing? He's not doing much. The collision and piercing is really great when digivolving each of your Digimon for each of your Digimon, digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, then until the end of your turn, one of their Digimon can't digivolve. You know, really powerful skill. You know, it has Alliance plus 3000 DP if as long as it has an X anybody or Lord Nightmon is evolution. And all your Nightmons gain this boost as well. I mean, being able to have collision piercing, basically doing what Dex Daruga wanted to do from the beginning without all the drawbacks. You know, it's guaranteed to be this big booty guy, you know, and being able to have the generic C that it does, I think it was meant to be played in the Dark Nightmon variants, but because the dog engine was just so much better, Lord Nightmon found home there and has stayed home there. You know, like Lucemon Chaos Mode, you have 2 decks it wants to be played in. You played in the normal Lucemon deck, or you played in the current, you know, 7 Great Demon Lords. They're both vitally instructive because Lucemon Chaos Mode wants to be part of that, and it just brings that, you know, it's generically good, but it's restricted. You know, you're not going to be playing it outside of those 2 decks, so it's a very powerful card, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to be splashing it outside of the main tribal-esque theme that they want to do. You know, we had this issue when we had Tommy and Sora and Joe, like super powerful tamer combination with blue hybrid, just doing what blue hybrid wanted to do, and then restrictions came in. Tommy had to be hit. You know, you even have like Ancient Greymon himself, you know, very powerful card, isn't gonna go anywhere. It's not super generic, you know, you have to be playing some way of making him a DP threshold threat, which again, not many decks can increase that DP, you know. So you have to play it in your red hybrid because all your red hybrid does that. You know, you want to be playing some hybrids and shenanigans, but you know, when you can make powerful boss Digimon, but you know, not super restrictive. We kind of know that aces are supposed to be super splashed, but when you kind of get generically good non-ace cards that are super splashable in any kind of form, and it's not even like every deck's kind of getting this treatment. It's like blue is like the biggest culprit, and then like generic good purple X antibody is automatically immediately going into doggo. You have Leviah X, Lord Nightmon X, all immediately just going like doggo engine's better, you know. And then blue's just level 6 king right now, just generic king of the generics, because it's always going to be that way. So to be honest with you, I think either a nuke's gonna have to happen to all these genericsies, or something has to start pulling them into being tribal-esque, or else you're just gonna have a lot of very powerful decks that are just playing super generic, or you're not gonna have what the game was trying to be, and that was being tribal focus. You know, decks are strictly meant to be tribally played, but you know, you're supposed to be able to deviate from that as well, because that's what's the whole point of Digimon, is being able to digivolve into different things, because there is no restriction on how they digivolve. You know, there is some within the game's protocols and stuff, but I think, to be honest with you, I think either they need to tone down on generic C levels, you know, generic level 6s, and you know, I think that'll help out alleviate the stress of this and just make them a little bit more restrictive, and it could definitely help out in the long term. But then, you know, at the end of the day, we know that players wanted and cried for more generic, because again, it took a while for them to get back on it. We were on such a tribal run, what, since BT9? There was just straight tribal. Everything was strictly, you could not deviate from that to have a good generic C. BT11 kind of started introducing generic C with Mirage, and then it kind of just superseded past BT13. I think once we got to 14, I think that's when we kind of started seeing more and more generic shenanigans. I think that's just kind of where we're going to be going with it. But at the end of the day, we kind of have some stuff we need to think about long term. Like 14, 15 was strictly tribal. This was strictly tribal, and then we started getting more and more untribal related stuff once we kind of got to here, you know, and now we're going to be more and more focused onto that. I don't know. I think we need to stick with a little bit more tribal-esque and just not have just superly good cards. But that's just me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. What do you guys think about generic cards? Should we start toning them down? Should we start hitting them across the board? Should we just see something go on with this? You know, let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.